DCU or text us at 202-892-6328.
Tried and True, the DC United postgame podcast presented by Heineken, will be back in less than 30 seconds.
Hey, thanks for listening. If you like what you hear, go ahead and give us a follow on social media. You can find us on Instagram or Twitter at Tried and True DCU. Again, that's Instagram or Twitter at Tried and True DCU.
My man is like 6'3", 6'4". Put him on Kamara the entire night.
He is still hurt, though.
I would take him over. I think we had Felipe marking Kai Kamara on that goal. I would take Donovan Pines on one leg over Felipe.
Joshua wants him out the stands right now. He was not in the 18. He's like, I don't even care. Put on a penny, and I want you out on that field.
It's tough to think that Felipe was marking Kai Kamara there.
He was at least 3 foot above the defender that was marking him on that goal. But, I mean, yeah, it's the beginning of the season. DC United didn't really come into this offseason with a lot of gusto. You know, we signed Julian Gressel literally at the break, like at the beginning of the preseason, so he had to take a flight from Atlanta that night to make the beginning of preseason. Then when Flores had visa issues the whole time, we are working on signing another player, Federico Higuain, who should be a big impact player off the bench. So, yeah, the bench is pretty low right now. We just have, I don't even know who was on the bench. Do you know, John?
I can certainly pull it up here. I know that right before the game we did have another striker available.
Yeah, we signed Eric Sorga from Loudoun 13 minutes before the lineups were released. It looks like we had Chris Odietsam, Fisher, Boateng, Paredes, and Seitz on the bench. None of those people can mark Kai Kamara.
Also, those are all defensive players, though, right? Like, that's kind of shocking to me.
Yeah, I mean,
you can't argue that we don't have any I guess it's a different argument if you're saying that we have no defensive players, but literally our entire bench is full of defensive players.
I wouldn't put any of those players against Kai Kamara, though. I just wouldn't. I would trust Birnbaum and Brillant, and I want to give them props. You know, we unfortunately ended up letting 2 goals in, but Brillant continued his run of form from
MVP.
Last season. He was. There were shouts in the supporter section last year that Brillant was the MVP of the team because he was having a career year almost at 34 years old. He's 35 now, and he came out tonight and he balled out. I'll give him that. Birnbaum didn't look bad at all. The goals just came from these set piece plays that Colorado had.
Well, go ahead, Sam.
I would also just like to pivot and say that, like, Assad came in, and I said beforehand, like, there was no way that Assad wasn't coming in, and I just think that's. I mean, he sat for a year and he wasn't playing soccer, and I think that a lot of fans were really, excited to have him back, but hesitant about what that might look like. But it was exciting to have him back in the black and red, and I think that, again, is just things that we can build off. It's only the first game. I think it's so disappointing that we didn't get any points out of today, but it is, again, only the first game. It's MLS.
For me, it's the lesser of two evils. I joke in the supporter section that Ulysses Segura is a rugby player playing soccer because he is an athlete. I'll give him that. He's an athlete. He's just like missing that last, that touch in the ball. He's a hardworking player, and you gotta love him for that. He's a Ben Olsen type of player. And then Assad is that flair that maybe Segura is missing, but he's coming off an injury and a year and a half of not playing. So I don't know what I'll back Ben here. I don't know what subs he would have made out of those options. I don't think any of those guys are marking Kai Kamara or making a difference in the last few minutes.
So I was about to ask, would you have kept Flores on, or who would you have subbed Assad on for?
Assad came on for Flores, I guess, like I said, he had visa issues. I don't know
if that precludes him from minutes, though. I mean, it was an interesting sub choice.
He's not training with the team, though, so I don't feel like he's fully fully enveloped in the fitness of the team and the flow of the team. So I understand that. I think he made the right choices with the subs. I wouldn't have brought anyone else on, that's for sure.
Yeah, and we'd love your thoughts. For those of you guys listening on YouTube Live here or following us on Twitter, Instagram at Tried and True DCU, you guys can join the show using the hashtag Tried and True DCU or texting the show at 202-892-6328. That's 202-892-6DCU. We'd love to hear your thoughts. And we do have an early tweet from the Lyndon Gooch fan account, which is an awesome name. DCU, we're bad. That's the tweet. And I can't really disagree with that.
I do disagree with that. I absolutely disagree
Sam, we
with
lost.
that. We did lose, but it's not like we were Cincy playing a man up and unable to score in 48 minutes or whatever that was. Like, we had
It feels like you're reasoning.
Well, I feel like my argument for this was how many minutes of this game were we losing? Were we losing for 2 minutes where they scored 2 goals? Or were we losing for a majority of the match? And I think we were winning for the majority of the match. The balls just didn't end up in the net because we have a new group back.
Yeah, and I think it's really easy to get in that English soccer mindset.
Yeah, everything is terrible.
Every game every game matters in MLS, but at the end of the day, you can absolutely be a team that doesn't hit your stride until the middle or the end of the season, and then you make it to the playoffs and you win the cup. And I fully see DC United hitting our stride before then, but at the very first game of the season, what I saw was very promising. Am I super disappointed that we didn't get those 3 points at our home opener? Absolutely, but you have to be positive. This is not going to be our entire season. You saw that it wasn't going to be our entire season. So I completely disagree that DC United was just flat bad today.
For sure. I think they showed a lot of signs of promise. But it is interesting as both of you are new English soccer fans. I appreciate the optimism that you bring to this show that the rest of us are just, decidedly pessimistic about every team.
I'm trying to hang over here. Okay, I finally have an English team. I'm trying to hang.
To kind of jump to another fan question, we had I'm going to guess this is a former friend of ours who moved out to Colorado who is just trying to say that Colorado is better than DC because they won today, and he's just flat out wrong. I mean, you don't have anything. You don't have the monuments, the bins, chili smokes. What do you have out in Colorado?
Now it's the battle of the cities.
They've got coldness and air that you can't breathe through. So listen, we have to award a man of the match here before we bring on our guest. So Joshua, I'll start with you. Who is your man of the match for today?
Oh my gosh, I gave Sam so much garbage last time we were on this podcast for not picking a specific person, but really it was the team today. I'll give you a person just out of concept. I'm going to go with my guy, Julian Gressel. It was so fun to watch a midfielder who could be a part of the defense, be a part of the attack, whip in crosses, and combine with the striker. And I really, really do believe that once he and Kamara get on the same page, that they'll score buckets full of goals. I mean, we didn't see one today. We thought we did until offsides brought it back. But I think we will see, I think we will see at least 10 Gressel to Kamara goals this season. That's an oddly specific prediction, but I'll back it 100%.
I hope we see it.
All right.
Sam, your thoughts?
I think that our man of the match was just the number 9 position. It has been a really long time.
Not Kamara specifically, but his role in the team.
No, Kamara played a really good game. I think, obviously, he could have played a better game. And, again, I've said on and on again that we have you could see that there was some connections that just weren't quite there, and they will be there throughout the rest of the season. But it's been so long since DC United has had a true number 9. Or, way back in the day, we used to play with 2 forwards, and then we kind of switched to 1 forward. But we never really had that, Josie Altidore type player who could really play that holding forward and hold up the play and, really just stop play as we're trying to get our defensive shape or as we're trying to get back into position. And it's so rewarding to be able to see Kamara play that role, and I'm so excited to watch him play that role. And Gressel was able to send him balls in, and he was able to make those runs in the box, and he was able to hold up play. Even if he wasn't winning the ball, he was kind of holding up Colorado from really playing the ball down the field. So really, Kamara, but mostly the number 9 position is my man of the match today.
Yeah, one of the things I'm most interested to see this year, and for those of you guys who listened to our first episode this season, is will Sam actually make a decision? Very unwilling to commit there as she was in the first episode of the season. Right. For me, Joseph Mora plays a critical role for this team.
He had some good plays. I'll give you that.
He did, especially in the first half. And I'm choosing, potentially a little bit biased, I'm choosing to just black out the second half because it was not great.
You mean when he conceded 2 goals?
Yes, that. He was not great in the second half, but I do think Joseph Moore plays a critical role for this team, and I expect him to have a great season this year in MLS.
So what do you all think of DC United's shout? DC United made Russell Knaus man of the match.
No, I think they brought Julian Gressel over to the stand.
I thought they announced
The
Russell
announcement
Knaus,
was
no?
definitely Russell Knaus, but the recipient of the guitar was definitely Julian Gressel. So.
Yeah, mixed bag from the team itself. So I think I'm going to stand with myself, and then Julian Gressel was the man of the match from the team and from Joshua Morgan. You heard it here.
So for those of you not here, Joshua Morgan is one of the 3 people in Audi Field who already have the new jersey with Julian Gressel.
How can you
on
not?
the
He's the
back.
best player in the league.
It only cost him $1 million. Taking a look at the rest of Major League Soccer today, currently at halftime, the Montreal Impact and New England Revolution are tied at 1-1, and currently underway in Houston, the Dynamo and Galaxy are knotted at 0. Any thoughts on the early games?
I'm super pumped, not for the early games, but for the first game in Nashville. I've heard that there's like 50-something.
League. New York City FC away to Columbus, FC Cincinnati away to the Red Bulls, Chicago away to the Sounders. Inter Miami opening up their quest as an MLS expansion team, potentially a team.
What you think between games on Twitter at #TriedAndTrueDCU or email us at triedandtruedcu@gmail.com.
Tried and True, the DC United postgame podcast presented by Heineken, will be back in less than 30 seconds.
Hey, thanks for listening. If you like what you hear, go ahead and give us a follow on social media. You can find us on Instagram or Twitter at TriedAndTrueDCU. Again, that's Instagram or Twitter at TriedAndTrueDCU. I don't know, just go down the list.
This is Tried and True, the DC United postgame podcast presented by Heineken, live from the Heineken MVP Club here at Audi Field. And as the crowd is trickling out, we're still talking about DC United's 2-1 loss to the Colorado Rapids today. But the good news is we've got a special guest. It's Devon McTavish. And Sam, let's talk a little bit about Devon before we bring him on.
Oh, I'm so excited to introduce Devon McTavish. Basically needs no introduction, but for those of you who may be a little bit new to DC United, I will say that he did play for the team from 2006 to 2011. He was defender number 18. He actually was born and raised in Virginia. And after retiring from playing soccer, he started announcing for the team, which is super exciting. So I think we'll start with right there. You were announcing today. So how did the game go to you? What do you think?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me. The fact that you guys are doing this right after the game is brilliant, and this is what an environment here in the Heineken Club. So I'm honored to be. Am I the first guest too?
You
are.
are.
I am the first guest. I'm
Lucky number
flattered
one.
to be here. Thank you. Yeah, be etched in stone then. Yes. So former player, now announcing next to the legend Dave Johnson. So I guess initial thoughts on the game, besides it being freezing cold, was the fact that it looked like the last preseason game of the year.
Yeah.
This is a team that both sides really that an influx of players for DC United. You can see they have talent. You can see they have structure. You can tell that it wasn't their best day on the ball at their feet. The quality simply wasn't there. But I think some positives to take from it. We'll lean on the positives at the moment is their structure. I think from back to front overall, the ability to press Colorado, who wanted to play out of the back, was very good at times, and you don't often see that with, again, new players on the field in new positions. You don't see that being too successful, and they turned over Colorado in some good spots. The quality just wasn't there to take advantage of it, and you could see as the game continued to go on, Colorado was a lot more comfortable with the ball at their feet. Can seem to be a little more fit too, which can, they play at altitude, so I know they haven't been there for the past 3 or 4 weeks, but they have been there, for the past week, 10 days or so, preparing for this game. So I think the legs and the minds got a little tired for DC United, and wasn't enough for them in the end to even get a point out of the game.
Yeah, it's a really tough late goal, and that's the thing that really takes the momentum out of the crowd. But looking long term at the season, we definitely thought, from the first portion of the show that the DC United showed a lot of good things. I mean, it feels like this team has the pieces needed to make a good run. I mean, what were your thoughts from the booth?
I think you're exactly right. I think they have some very talented pieces that are going to fit the system that Olsen and his staff have implemented for 2020. This isn't a team that's going to sit in a 35-yard low block like we saw last year throughout 2019. This is a team that I think is going to, again, turn over some teams, especially here at Audi Field, in some bad positions, and with one or two passes players. Could be a top, best 11 player in MLS. I mean, it was in a little different role for him, kind of more of a central midfielder than just hanging out on the flank, but you still saw his quality and service. Ola Kamara, I know you guys mentioned him a lot, held the ball.
Being in the locker room and what it feels like. So what is it like coming off a game like today in which we definitely could have beat this Colorado team, and you're looking forward to Miami, who is an expansion team, and then after that Miami is home, and then after that you're going away to Cincinnati, who had one of the worst seasons in MLS
Conceded
history.
the most goals in league history.
Exactly. So what is it like in the locker room having this disappointing loss, but kind of knowing that you can rally the troops?
Well, I remember playing actually against Colorado in the opening game of the year, and the first thing, it was a loss, and the first thing we did was just see tomorrow, right? I think
it's tomorrow.
So we have no idea what they're really going to look like. So I don't think
we were
staff
trying to
and his
preview
team-
this game, and
Right,
we had no
you're
idea.
Like, I have no idea. Or maybe wear pink jerseys. So I think they appear to be a beatable team at the moment, and so does Cincinnati. Which again, with Cincinnati and the turmoil that's been there at the club over the past 12 months or so. You need to take advantage of playing these two teams.
So Devin, we do have a couple questions from our listeners right now. And if you're listening right now and you do have questions, please tweet at us using the hashtag #TriedandTrueDCU or tweet at us at @TriedandTrueDCU. But the first question is from Ali Pardo at Ali Pardo on Twitter. After struggling in front of the home crowd, are we a bit concerned about Miami that has so much to prove as an expansion team?
I think it's always a concern when you drop points at home, especially being up 1-0. I mean, there's no doubt that is going to be a talking point throughout the week. In terms of Miami, there's always something to be concerned about with every MLS team. Again, we don't know a whole lot about them, so I imagine most of the conversation this week will be simply about refining, the mistakes that they made this week. So it'll probably be focused solely in-house, only on the players of DC United rather than kind of the club of Inter Miami. So again, always concerned with losing at home, and I imagine they're going to quickly correct the ship.
Yeah, there's a question from our friends at the RFK Refugees podcast, basically saying, hey, it's kind of crazy. We're still in a situation where we don't have three players that, it seems like Olsen trusts to come off the bench to start the season. Is that the case, or is it early and we're still trying to figure out exactly the 11 we need on the field to make an impact?
That's a good question for obviously Ben. I mean, he's going to say he trusts every player he has on the bench and the squad. But I think it does highlight kind of I think especially with Ariola going out, it's a little thin right now. The team's a little thin right now. And so the players in the starting 11 really need to be productive because there aren't a whole lot of players to lean on coming off the bench at the moment. Now that can change on a weekly basis, on a monthly basis as the season continues to progress. But, I think it's a good shout out for early on in the season.
So final questions from us. Joshua, Sam, do you have anything else for Devin for tonight?
Yeah, I don't think so.
I'll go ahead and ask. Have you been working on that Dave Johnson call? It's in the net. Are you ready to take the helm, or does he teach it, pass it on to you?
No, it's copyrighted. So anyone else that ever says it gets charged.
He hasn't trained you at all. Not even.
No sort of training to go along with that, and it's so instinctual for him.
So are you coming up
with your own?
own?
No one else can. No. I work
color commentator for life.
Yeah, I work on far less talent than Dave Johnson, so I just react in the moment and let him. I focus on letting him talk. That's my role. I'll let Dave talk and then just chime in if he runs out of words.
Well, I think that's selling yourself a little bit short. But thank you so much for joining us here at Tried and True, the DC United Postgame podcast, and hopefully we'll see you, at other home games, being able to travel to away games. But we really appreciate you coming out for our first guest.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. Congrats on the podcast. Keep it up, and things will get better here at Audi Field. There's no doubt about that.
Absolutely. It can only go up from here, really. A tough start to the season, but we thank you so much, Devon, for coming on. Sam and Joshua, let's tell our listeners where they can find us throughout the week.
Yeah, so you can find us at Tried and True is our podcast name. So you can find us at Tried and True DCU on both Twitter and Instagram. That's Tried and True DCU. You can also email us at triedandtruedcu@gmail.com. That's if you have any thoughts kind of between games, anything you want us to cover, any suggestions you may have. Obviously, for those of you listening on YouTube Live, thank you very much. We're Tried and True DCU. And then if you happen to miss us on YouTube Live, you can, or if you just want to kind of re-listen to anything that we've said or anything that Devon might have said, you can find us on all of the, podcatchers?
Podcatchers.
Podcatchers. I don't think
things
that's a
that
word,
catch podcasts,
but
right?
I will say it's a podcatcher.
We throw them up and they catch them. Podcatchers.
So we are on all of those. We're on Apple. We're on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify. If there's something that you listen to and you don't think that we're on it, go ahead and email us at triedandtruedcu@gmail.com or tweet us or send us a message on Instagram or whatever. We're trying to get on all the podcatchers. I think we've caught them all, but let us know if we haven't. Yeah, I try my best.
Well, we're super excited. Next week, we are here against Inter Miami FC. I think I'm still allowed to say that until the copyright goes away. Thoughts on next week's game?
Like Devon said, we have no idea what's going to happen next week. We haven't seen them play. We will later this weekend, but right now I have no idea. I think DC United will beat them. How about that?
I mean, I certainly hope so.
I'm literally always positive that DC United will beat anyone. I think they'll still probably trying to struggle to be able to figure out what they are doing. I think it'll be interesting. It's a little hard because we really opened the MLS season, so they play tomorrow. So we haven't really seen what they've been able to do. I wasn't able to really follow or catch any of their preseason games. We might have a little bit more of an idea come next week. But, I mean, I think we're going to come out with a victory. I think, like Devon said, they're going to take a shower, they're going to wash it off, and we're going to come out and get 3 points next week.
Well, there's really not another choice. We'll be back here next week in the Heineken MVP Club before we move to a more public location that we're still working on. We've got some exciting things later this season here on Tried and True, the DC United Postgame podcast. I'm thinking next week will be much more celebratory. I expect DC United to get a win, knowing not a whole lot about Inter Miami, but we'll just call that my optimism about this season. So thanks so much for listening to our first episode. Again, please interact with us throughout the week. Follow us on @TriedAndTrueDCU on both the Twitter and the Instagram, or using the hashtag #TriedAndTrueDCU. And if you know anyone or you would like to advertise on our podcast, please shoot us an email at triedandtruedcu@gmail.com. We'd like to get you on the air, but we will talk at you super soon. For today, for Joshua and Sam, it's a 2-1 loss to start the season, but we can only go up from here. This has been Tried and True, the DC United Postgame podcast, live from the Heineken Club here at Audi Field.